Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Chiropractic Student Podcast. Today we are joined by Marc Hudson. He's coming in from Spain. Thank you, Marc, for joining us this morning. For us, it's really early.
So thank you for having me.
um, as with we do most people on these podcasts, could you just give us a little bit about your background, how you got into chiropractic, maybe where you studied, and what you're doing now?
I had a sports injury. I was playing judo. There was a bunch of synchronous events that happened. The guy who broke my shoulder was U.S. champion and Pan Am champion, etc. He was also a chiropractor, and he picked me up. He threw me on my head. I turned my head. I smashed my shoulder, so I couldn't move my arm for about. And it was an impact fracture of the tuberosity, and the 6 months post injury, I could still not move my arm. The fracture had healed in 6 weeks. My then girlfriend said, "Why don't you go see this guy who was a chiropractic, just graduated from Parker. We're living in Dallas, Texas. Just graduated from Parker University, was working illegally out of his house, waiting for his North Carolina license to come in. And I went to his house and I went 2 days and he cracked my neck and did some stuff. And my arm started working again, which felt like magic to me. And then year and a half, 2 years after that, different woman, wife, my now wife and mother of my children, was pregnant with our daughter and developed sciatica and unbelievable ripping pain. Couldn't walk, had to walk with a cane, etc. Finally got her to a chiropractic intern, which is a long story, but I won't go into that. Also very synchronous story there. And I became, and her sciatica was resolved and like almost immediately as well. And so I knew chiropractic work. And then I asked this guy, can you, I'm an adult. I've been, working. I've now got a pregnant wife and I'm looking for stable work in my life because at that point, my life had revolved around working to make money to be able to play judo. And so I asked this intern at school, can you make a living doing this? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, well, I'll do it. And so I went to chiropractic school and I was very driven, got through school as quickly as possible, hated going to school because I was not, didn't feel competent by the skill level of the people who were teaching me. And I'm a person who learns by watching people do stuff well. And so I recognized sort of intuitively that most of the people teaching us, and this was supposedly a good philosophical chiropractic school that was being taught in a model of success, but the people who had actually most intimate contact with us, which were our teachers, our professors, didn't have an aura or vibe of success to me. And so I rejected them completely. And most of the people going to school at that time were a lot younger than I was. They were into partying, they were into social life or whatever. And I was just working at nights, trying to get through school. And I hated it. I really, really, really rejected it. And
Where
got
did
out of
you
school, beg your pardon, Parker College of Chiropractic in Dallas, Texas. Graduated in 94. And got through school. We'd been through years of right-wing politics in the States that is much less than the right-wing politics now, but even that was too much for me and my wife. We decided we were going to move back to Europe. We're both half European. Well, I say I'm half European. She's half British, half American, no longer European. Thank you, Morris. And So we decided to move back to Europe. I was looking for a job. I went to a Parker seminar in 92 in no 92, 93 in Paris, handed out cards, handed out resumes, got a job offer, moved to Spain. Um, did an unsuccessful associate with a guy in here who was not in any way ready for an associate, didn't know how to run a business, was a successful adjuster himself, was capable within a very sort of low frequency pain management miracle chiropractic based model, able to have built a practice in a place where there were very few chiropractors. But he promised me 120 new patients in 2 months and actually gave me 40 new patients in 4 months. And I had a PVA of about 3 or something because I was useless and I didn't know what I was doing, but he didn't know how to train either. So less than a year after I graduated, about July, about 11 months, 10, 11 months after I graduated, I had moved away from the mainland, moved to Mallorca, Spain, which is an island in the Mediterranean, and we opened up our own practice. And so started from zero, didn't know anybody here, and was $250,000 in debt, which was between my student loans and Lynn, my wife's student loans.
Yeah.
And so we were very, very pressured to find solutions very quickly to, diminishing this debt, and started to make a lifestyle for my now 2 young children. I had a son who was born while I was in chiropractic school. And so very driven. So get out, start pounding the payment, handing out cards, referring people in. Don't really know what I'm doing. No chiropractic works because of our previous history, but not any finesse or skill in the delivery of it because I've never had role models to follow. And so at 2 years after having started, finally and make enough money to go on vacation and visit family in the States. So we go back to the States, and I am lucky again, whatever the synchronicity thing or whatever it is that I go to this chiropractic meeting and I'm exposed to chiropractors who are working in a completely different model from what I've ever been exposed to. And so what I had been trained going through Parker, which was a very business success oriented school, was that the chiropractor has all the answers. They're very professional. They're in the Parker model, they're good at talking to lawyers or getting referrals from MDs or whatever. It's that very sort of competent, successful alpha male or female, whatever. But I mean, it's this very sort of outgoing. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I had adopted a role in practice in which, first of all, I'd copied this other doc that I'd worked for 4 months because he was paying bills. And then I was wearing the disguise of a doctor, didn't understand chiropractic, or the version of chiropractic that I now ascribe to, which I admit is very much at the extreme fringe of the chiropractic spectrum. But so I was exposed to. Sorry,
What was that meeting that you went
what was
to?
that meeting?
Yeah.
It's very, very changed. It was one called Dynamic Essentials. It was run by a guy named Sid Williams, who's died subsequent to that. So and Dynamic Essentials still exists, but it's very changed in tone and timbre and character at this point. It's still a good meeting. It's still a vitalistic meeting, but it's run by a very good friend of mine, or a group of friends of mine. But it's turned into sort of a living shrine towards Sid Williams rather than the dynamic, empowered meeting that I knew at the time. Okay. My lineage is that lineage of vitalistic chiropractic, which was not called vitalistic chiropractic when it started, but it's that Didi, BJ, Sid Williams, and then there was a group of about 15 or 20 chiropractors that engendered this group of about 50 chiropractors, although the meetings were frequently 1,000 plus. But there were times in the history of that group where there may have been 50 chiropractors in the room, or 100, over 50 chiropractors in the room seeing over 500 visits a week, and several of them seeing 1,000 visits a week plus, which is a completely different model from the success model of whatever it is. And numbers are not important. However, it's important for us to realize that people who are doing that are obviously doing something that's radically different from other chiropractors. Right.
You went to that meeting. Like, what happened then?
What
What
happened after, or what happened at the meeting? I
butted in a bit in the story. Yeah, sorry.
So what happened after, or what happened at the meeting?
After.
What happened to you? I aligned with that vision. I was told that if this is interesting to you, just do what we say. Meaning, basically, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're doing. It's like an apprenticeship, right? Shut up and do what we tell you. right? And if someone's seeing 1,000 visits a week, I was seeing 88 visits a week at that point, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think, I mean, I didn't suffer from that arrogance of thinking I know everything, which a lot of young docs do. It's like, oh, I've been to school, I've been this. Chiropractic school is not forming us to be chiropractors. Chiropractic school is giving us the piece of paper to make us legally acceptable to practice in our jurisdictions. We are buying a piece of paper. We are buying a license through our time and energy. Okay, we are not being taught chiropractic, and that's my truth. That's my hallucination. I'm not saying that to offend anybody. I'm not saying that to denigrate any schools. Some schools are atrociously abusive. Other schools are user friendly through that process, meaning that at least they're nice to you. I know there's some schools really tear down the students and chiropractic whilst you're going through that process. And so chiropractors come out of school in worse shape than they went into school. And further disconnected from chiropractic. And they've been taught through incompetent, useless teachers who never knew how to be chiropractors and have now rejected chiropractic, are in a place of influence over, let's call them young minds, for lack of a better term. And they are poisoning them to chiropractic, and they're instilling in them a message that it doesn't work, it's dangerous, there's no proof for it. And if you're doing anything other than sort of, soft tissue work or some kind of musculoskeletal treatment of uncomplicated low back and neck pain, and you're spending any more than 4 visits or whatever doing this, that you are incompetent, only doing it for the money, manipulative, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the culture that exists right now. And it's very firmly in place in the chiropractic profession, particularly in Europe and particularly in the UK. Which is where I think most of your audience is, right?
Yeah, for sure. And those those students at the schools then who are I was very much I hated school, and I learn everything I know about chiropractic at the moment from external sources. So you finished school, you went to this meeting, you found that
Right. So you want to go you want to go back to that? Okay, good. Which
yeah,
is
how
good.
what
And good job on keeping me on track.
yeah, trying to keep on track
And
in
I
terms.
hope it's not because you're bored. I hope it's because it's interesting to you. Okay, so what happened is several things. So I was inspired by these people who knew what they were doing and were working in a model. Well, first of all, there was the full spectrum of humanity there being successful doing this stuff, meaning that there wasn't um, one homogenous model of success. So there was everything from network practitioners to super strict Gonstead practitioners to CBP practitioners to, tonal work, best, DNFT, like all kinds of weird stuff going on. All the people in that room, because there was a unified culture there, were ascribing their success to the embracing of these traditional principles of chiropractic.
And
And sorry.
what so they were embracing, what was it that they were
Okay.
embracing?
So and this is something that my wife and I have created now in the last sort of 15 years, what I now call vitalistic chiropractic, which at the time through that lineage would have been called straight chiropractic.
Yeah.
Now it's called, then traditional straight chiropractic. For a long time, because I was involved in a lot of political work in Europe, I called it non-diagnostic, non-therapeutic chiropractic. When I was calling it principle chiropractic, aligned with Stevenson's 33 principles, people who had never even heard of 33 principles thought that I was calling them unprincipled, meaning immoral or unethical, and so they took great offense to it. And so it's like I'm offending them, and we haven't even started a conversation yet. So that's when I happened upon the term vitalistic, and vitalistic chiropractic is so going back to BJ, right? BJ's utopia of chiropractic today for a better world tomorrow. The big idea of chiropractic, you're familiar with that term or not, Lewis?
The big idea.
Yeah.
I've heard it thrown around, but I don't
Okay,
necessarily
so
know
it's a
it.
very important paragraph of text which you can look up. Okay, the big idea of chiropractic is BJ, it's in BJ's writing, and BJ's has, probably 50,000 pages of writing, right? It's incredibly dense and for some people very hard to read, including myself. But
Is it
he's
the one
got
where he's like, when you step on something and you
a
fall?
slip on the sidewalk. A slip on the sidewalk is a small thing,
Yeah,
right?
that one. Okay.
But okay, so that's the big idea of chiropractic. And so what it is the slip on the sidewalk is a small thing. Displaces a vertebra is a small thing. The displaced vertebra causes some kind of lack of function in the body. That's a small thing. The lack of function leads to a state of disease. That's a bigger thing for that person, then leads to a limited life. That's a bigger thing for that person. The chiropractor goes in and makes the adjustment and replaces, that's his term, right? Or whatever it is, adjust the vertebra. That's a small thing. But that small thing then releases the flow of mental impulse across that nerve. That's also a small thing. But then that person being restored to health is a big thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is multiply that person by 1,000 and you affect the health of a town. Multiply it by 1,000,000 and you affect the health of a city. Multiply it by 100 million and you affect the health of a nation. So BJ's utopia was chiropractic today for a better world tomorrow, was emptying out the prisons, the hospitals, and the insane asylums. It is an idea that, in his words, is bigger than religion. Okay, so this is big stuff. This is big, big, big stuff. This is chiropractic as a human right. This is chiropractic as a way of healing a sick world. Okay, now, so time out. That's the big idea.
Yeah.
Then we've got what I call vitalistic chiropractic, which is now a term that has reached cultural acceptance in chiropractic. However, is poorly defined, because anybody that's sort of non-musculoskeletal is comfortably aligning themselves with vitalism. However, they don't actually understand what vitalism is, because vitalism incorporates the concept of energy, of the person's energy, and of what BJ or Stevenson called, or I mean, in the original part of chiropractic called universal intelligence, right? Which you can ascribe any name you want to for that. Doesn't offend me. I am not religious, so I'm not into, specific characters or flavors of universal intelligence, and I'm not trying to push my views on anybody else. But if we're talking about this energetic component to the universe and individually as well, chiropractic is a tool. It is an application of force to reunite the three sort of identifiable spheres of where our consciousness is, human consciousness is, between the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, and those three things coming together in the person consciously, so that that person can then become as complete, as empowered, as in tuned as possible. And that the adjustment is the tool to create that those three circles coming together, that harmony, if you want, sure, that's a good word, coherent vibration, however you want to describe it, that the adjustment is a tool for that. It's a pathway. It's an application of force designed to do that. It is not the only way to get there. There's a myriad other techniques or disciplines or whatever that will do that for people. Meditation, Reiki, whatever it is, or even surgery. I mean, there's ways. The only thing that matters is that consciousness, that mind, body, and spirit come together and consciously in that person, and that person be able to live a more complete life as a result of that. So if that's the goal, if that's the outcome that we're seeking to produce, and the adjustment is our tool, our application, our song, our nutrition, our whatever, it's the way that we get there. I know of no other technique, or not technique is not the right word, no other discipline that is as reliably consistent in getting those three circles together than the chiropractic adjustment, as reliably consistent or efficiently delivered.
So from what I'm like I completely agree with a lot of the stuff that you're saying, actually.
Well,
Um,
what bits do you disagree with?
more of the point, like I I I've tried to stay as neutral as possible, like when doing like, and I've spoken to very biomechanical BCA chiropractors who are like treating pain, and they
I got
three,
nothing against that. Treating
yeah,
pain is super important.
and even though I don't practice that way, or believe that I practice that way, I find it's how my question is, how did you get so certain in what you do? What was your path in terms of self-study then after university? Because if after university, if university got you ready and got you your piece of paper,
It did not get me ready. It got me
okay,
legally acceptable.
if it got you legally acceptable, how did you become the chiropractor you are today in terms of self-study? What was it? Who did you talk to? Where did you go? Where did you turn to for this inspiration and to become so certain in what you do?
Okay, so thank you
Was
for
it,
bringing me
or it
back on
might have been
track.
with, it might have been within or something, I don't know.
Okay, so I went every 3 months back to this meeting
Yeah.
from 98, 97 through 2003 or 2004. That was a big, I was closing my practice for a week, didn't have the money to do it. I got a, it's like, it was a big deal. It was every 4 months, every 3 months, sorry. And I went back every single time. And every single visit back, I would go observing clinics and I would hang with people the whole time that were way up the food chain of where I was. So, for instance, two of my mentors, one of whom has since passed, guy named John Hoffman and Jimmy Gregg, who were great friends, would go to the bar. I don't drink, but they would go to the bar after the meetings and they would stay until 2 a.m. and talk to anybody who was there as long as anybody was there. And I would just sit there and listen to them talk and ask stupid questions that, young people do.
Mhm.
And they would answer me and they would make fun of me and they would tease me and they would call me an idiot and they would get progressively drunker and they would talk about who they were, what they were doing. And so these are both chiropractors that had seen over 600 visits in a single day. Okay. Now, so when that, so, and so the first seminar that we produce seminars here in Europe, right? ChiroEurope is a seminar that we hold twice a year. But the very first seminar that I produced was Jim Sigafoose. So I brought James Sigafoose over in 98 to Barcelona.
Wow.
And so you produce a seminar and you hang out with Jim Sigafoose. And then,
That's cool.
and he later became a friend, at the time he was just somebody that I'm coming over because I'm trying to spread this message. So I got turned on to this message and they're saying just copy what we do, shut up, do this stuff, copy what we do, and keep showing up so that this seeps into you, so that you become this. And it's a matter of visiting as many practices as you can, finding the model that appeals to you. But then what really, really, really turned me on, I was going across that broad spectrum of different types of chiropractors, right? Was they were all completely free in their expression of who they were and the message that they were giving. And that's what I wanted, because I'm now conscious. I was intuitively aware and very uncomfortable that I was playing a role, that I was playing the role of doctor.
Mm.
And so very quickly started producing seminars here. So originally it was just, bringing in outside speakers. So the least financial exposure is bring in one outside speaker and do a Friday through Sunday event with them. And so they're doing 12 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours, that kind of thing. And then you spend time before and after with them and you talk to them and you pick their brain, whatever. Then in 2003 or 4 we started doing multi-speaker seminars, so bringing in 3 chiropractors or whatever, and that didn't exist, right? So UCA, I spoke at the first UCA conference actually with Sigafoose, shared the stage. Managed to offend the room. It was a big conference.
I love that.
but at that point, seriously alienated the room. No, you didn't like it. Sigafoose said it was like it said it was the craziest, like it was super offensive. I was so passionate and so angry and so frustrated with the direction that the UK profession was going in, because it was right there at the introduction of the GCC.
Yeah.
And I was screaming at the room that they were selling out the profession for, VAT exemption and an attempt to exclude McTimony basically from the register,
Yeah.
which backfired on them. But I was super pissed and really alienated the room. I wasn't invited back to speak at the UCA for another, 10 or 15 years, something like that. But it's neither here nor there. But you know what? You hang out with these people and you just soak in what they do and you try it on and you see if it fits. And then if stuff doesn't fit, you have to run it through the filter of, does it not fit because it is immoral or unethical by my standards, or does it not fit because I am afraid of expressing myself this way?
Ooh.
Right? Very, very big difference there.
How do you
So
know?
just copy what they do, develop. And so in my personal journey, went from 97, 88 visits a week to 2003, which is when the first time I brought on an associate. In the last part of my solo practice, we were averaging 850 visits a week.
Wow.
This is in 24 adjusting hours, right? So 4 6-hour days, Monday through Thursday, 3-hour shifts. So I'm working 6 hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, threes and threes, 850 visits a week, 100% internal referral, no advertising, which means that all of those people who are in there because they're attracted to it, not because of I was doing no prepay at the time, which means they were also single visit commitments, which is very, very unwieldy, inefficient, and a drain for the chiropractor. But I was doing that because I had political responsibilities in the Spanish Association and then in the ECU. So I was having to deal with those BCA guys who were saying that you're manipulating people and you're lying to them and you're only doing it about the money or whatever. And it's like, hey, all of these people are internally referred, which means they come from their friends and family, and they're only paying a single visit at a time.
Yeah.
So they can opt out at any time that they want. They can stop referring at any time that they want. Got an associate in. It took us a while because instead of growing initially when the associate came in, the practice actually, reduced in number, which is a brutal reality sometimes. But eventually, 2003, got it up to about 1,200 visits a week. Did that between the two of us. Did that for 2 years. And then that associate left, and then through the cycle again, whatever. But and so we've been doing that for years and years and years and years and years. And I totally have that integrated in my being, and I don't practice at that pace or intensity now because I'm older and I'm not that driven, and I've got a ton of other responsibilities that take my time and energy as well. We coach people, we do seminars. We started, a chiropractic school. I raised $2.5 million for that. I was on the board of Life University for 10 years, president of the Spanish Association, blah, 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 all this stuff that is not good for your practice. It may be good for the profession, but it is not good for your practice. But it's stuff that turns us on, and the spreading of this message that was given to us so freely is something that is very dear and passionate and close to me.
So just briefly touch upon, I didn't know you helped set up a school, and you say you do seminars. Can you just talk a little bit about those? Just
At the school, well, I raised $2.5 million to start BCC. And so
Barcelona College of Chiropractic.
Yeah, Barcelona, a long time ago. I have nothing to do with them anymore. Not friends.
Seminar stuff.
The seminar. So we started ChiroEurope. It wasn't called ChiroEurope then, but we started ChiroEurope in first multi-speaker seminar was, I think, 2003 or 2004. So coming up on 20 years of that. And that now happens twice a year in Malaga, Spain. I mean, it's been to different places. We've done them in Barcelona. We've done them in Mallorca for years. For about 10 years, it's been exclusively in Malaga, Spain. So those are in spring and autumn. So generally end of April, beginning of October. And it's the only vitalistic seminar in Europe. And it's a room that is filled with people who are vibrating in tune with this message, and it's a completely different level of community and energy and commitment than any other meeting that exists right now in Europe, and I would actually say in the world. So I actually listened to a podcast that you did with Sebastian Fuentes. Sebastian took what we did and is doing it in France now at the seminar that he produces, which is Grand Deal en Conscience. And Sebastian and Tomas and their wives, Sabrina and Elodie. So the four of them have created mini ChiroEurope in France with a community that's very much in the early stages of making that shift. Other people who coached with us, Sam and Gabby Floriani, have taken this and gone back to Australia. They were living in Italy at the time when they coached with us, but they've gone back to Australia. And they've created that there as well. And so they're coming up, and they have the biggest seminar and the only vitalistic seminar that's happening in Australia as well. So these are direct descendants of ChiroEurope, and it's something that is great cause for great pride and appreciation, somewhat jealousy as well, because they're younger and have more energy to dedicate to it, but that they're creating a shift in their communities that is absolutely massive. And it's really interesting that young chiropractors are attracted to the models that they're proposing, one, and two, that both of them had turned into the largest seminars in their countries in very short periods of time.
It has to be really rewarding for you as well to know that obviously you took the movement that you were part of and created your own, and now it's being replicated again. Like
it's very rewarding, but it's also mostly, and this has to do with my character, incredibly frustrating that it is so difficult to gain traction and that we're working against. So it's like, it's very rewarding to have saved this house from flooding.
Yeah.
But the flooding is still happening.
Yeah, I agree. I want one more thing from you, Mark. Like, I'm loving so much of this. It's really great. I've written a whole list of golden nuggets that you've been saying. One more thing for a struggling student or new grad who's a little bit lost and doesn't know their direction in chiropractic. What would be your golden nugget of advice for them? If you were to stumble across them in the hallway, maybe they're in the corner and they're like, I think I might quit. What should I do? You stumble upon them. What do you say?
Go ahead and quit.
Why?
You want to be a wimpy ass bitch? We don't need you in the profession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is brutally savage, but okay. Fair
Okay.
enough.
However, this can be the greatest job you've ever had. It can reward you emotionally, financially, self-actualization, etc. That possibility is there for you. But ultimately, each of us is responsible for our own lives and our own success. And if chiropractic is wonderful, chiropractic is miraculous, chiropractic is huge, chiropractic is an avenue to freedom. I mean, if we go back to BJ's Utopia, right? We're talking about bigger than religion. You know, oh, I think I'll give up on something that's bigger than religion. Okay, fine, go ahead.
Yeah.
You know, or expose yourself to people who are working in a successful model that is attractive to you, and then follow that path. And you find, and here's the deal, they're idiots just like we are. They put their trousers on the same way, one leg at a time, right? That they're just exactly the same as, and if they can see, you know, my deal is if Sigafoose, and I later, you know, Sigafoose was crazy. Okay. And whatever. I mean, and like Sigafoose, there's a dozen other chiropractors that I've known, and they all have their personal idiosyncrasies, and they all have their stuff going on. And if they can do it, I can do it. You know, and then it's just a matter of level. It's a matter of choosing what level of energy you're willing to dedicate to it. But you're asking, what did I do? It's 24/7. It's 24/7 being a chiropractor. And it's exciting, and it's fun, and it's beautiful, and it's rewarding, and it's huge. And it doesn't have to be that way. No, you can be very successful successful, you can see 300 visits a week or whatever, and have just good systems and a good message, and you're doing, and you dedicate your life to your hobbies or whatever, that's totally, you can set your life up that way, and there's nothing wrong with that.
How do people come and maybe experience some of this that you're
Come to
pre?
ChiroEurope. You go to ChiroEurope.com. Our next meeting is October 7th through 9th in Malaga.
Yeah.
And the October one is a smaller one. So we do other events. So I coach, we do other events as well. That's not important. What's important is the energetic thing. But the deal is that we're not exposed to that energy in our lives. We're definitely not exposed in our schools. You are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. If you want to succeed in practice, mastermind up the food chain. So what is it that causes shift in chiropractors or in people in practice? And there's 2 things, right?
Yeah.
And it's an undeniable shift in consciousness or a crisis that forces the person to confront what's not working in their lives.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's nothing else. You're not going to shift from your comfortable energy and your training into something that's this completely different resonance, pace, whatever. You got less than a minute, I'm seeing now.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's going to cut us
Okay.
off.
So ChiroEurope.com.
Yeah.
We do the Vital Experience. I do a program called Kick-Ass Coaching Mastermind. People are welcome to contact me, Marc, M-A-R-C, at
I'll pop all
ChiroEurope.com.
the information down below.
Okay.
Marc, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's going to kick us off any second, but thank you so
You're very
much. I
welcome.
really appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. You're very welcome.